I think we are live. Good evening, everyone. Lee Hayward here with the Total Fitness Bodybuilding video Q&A for Friday, May the 3rd. I want to welcome you to our Total Fitness Bodybuilding video chat. And as you're tuning in, please let me know where you're tuning in from. Type there in the comment section where you are tuning in from. And just let me know if this is coming through loud and clear. Because again, I just want to make sure everything's working on my end. Make sure this comes through loud and clear on your end before we get into the Q&A. So let's see. We have some people popping on from YouTube as well as over on Facebook. And we are streaming simultaneously on YouTube as well as Facebook. So wherever you are joining in from, you'll be able to participate either in the comments or in the live stream video chat. All right, we have Lee is joining in, coming through loud and clear. Thanks, Lee. I appreciate that. We have Dan's joining in over in California. Welcome, loud and clear. Thanks, Dan. Do appreciate that. Good stuff. So again, as you're popping onto the live stream, let me know where you're tuning in from. Just want to kind of get an idea, because I know we have people who literally tune in from all over the globe. So it's always nice to see where people are joining in from. We have the Mace Method. Hey, what's up? Nice to have you joining in. Welcome. Awesome. Let's see who else is popping on. Good stuff. Over in Mississippi, yeah, and we actually had a workout there last month in Toronto. I learned how to use a mace for the first time, and much appreciated. All right, check it out. All right, who else is popping on? Let's see. I know people are hopping on the live stream here now, so just want to give people a few moments to join us here. And for those of you who are new to the Total Fitness Bodybuilding video chat, I want to welcome you. It's always nice to have new people joining in. And for those of you who are regulars, welcome back. Always nice to have the regulars joining in as well. But this is something that I do every Friday, or most Fridays. I say every Friday, but there's bound to be a Friday if I'm traveling or I'm not feeling well or whatever. I may miss it. But more often than not, Fridays live at 5, I'm going to be doing a Total Fitness Bodybuilding live stream here. And this is something I've been doing for years. And I enjoy having this opportunity to connect with you. And basically for the next hour, we're going to hang out and shoot the breeze and discuss anything that you would like to cover regarding fitness and nutrition, health and wellness, any specific challenges you may be going through with your workouts, your eating plan, specific challenges regarding your goals, be that building muscle, losing fat, and working around injuries, or whatever it is that you're trying to achieve with regards to your health, fitness, and wellness. Feel free to type those questions and topics of discussion into our chat. And again, if you're watching on YouTube, it's going to be a live stream chat box to the side of this video. If you're tuning in over on Facebook, it's going to be the comment section below the video. But either one, it's going to come through loud and clear on my end. And I'll be able to interact and chat with you. So who else we got joining in? We got Robert's joining in from Missouri. Welcome, Robert. We've got Chris joining in. Welcome. Glad to have you joining us, guys. Good stuff. So as you're typing in your questions and topics of discussion here, I just want to, I kind of want to do a backtrack here. And this was something I was having some conversations with some of my coaching students. And we were just kind of like reminiscing of the motivation behind fitness and getting in shape and basically becoming the best version of yourself. Like, where did that all stem from? Because a lot of times when people are struggling, and what I mean by struggling is you're going through phases where it's kind of like ups and downs, on and off with your fitness. And this is very common. Like, more often than not, when I'm talking to people and we're discussing workouts and nutrition and whatever, it usually goes in phases. Like, they'll have phases where they're doing really good and they're on track, and then phases where they kind of fall off the bandwagon and, they have to kind of start all over again. So one of the strategies that I like to use to kind of keep that positive momentum moving forward is to always remember why you started this journey in the first place. Now, for some of you, this journey may have started years ago, decades ago, even in some cases. For some, it may be a relatively new journey within the last several years. But I'm just curious to know, what is it that inspired you to start working out and taking care of your health and fitness? What was the initial drive for you, and how old were you, right? We could kind of discuss that in the comment section and in the chat window here. But I'm just going to share my personal journey and how I got involved with this. because everybody's journey is unique, but I'm sure at some level there's some similarities and carryovers as well. And in my situation, when I was younger, we moved to a new city, or town, I should say. It wasn't a city. Right? I live in Newfoundland, and what we consider a city is pretty small by most standards. But we moved from a small city to a small town. All right, so put it that way. But when I was 7 years old, we moved to a new town, and I had to go to a new school. And being the new kid at school, not having any friends or whatever, it was a very awkward situation for me. And I remember that first year at the new school, not knowing anybody, I was the target for some of the schoolyard bullies. And, they kind of ganged up on you and pushed me around. And that was my motivation to want to do something about it. Because I said, I was intimidated. I was getting bullied at school. And I said, I want to do something about it. And initially, that led me to martial arts. So that's kind of where it started for me. And myself and my dad, we joined a local martial arts club. And I did that for several years and did that throughout, like junior high school, all that. I was doing that. And while I was doing the martial arts training, that's where I kind of got interested in weight training as well. And my martial arts instructor he also lifted weights. Now you have to remember, this is back in the day before the internet. So information didn't come at you, and fitness influencers didn't come at you at nearly the pace that it does today. So my martial arts instructor, like, he was the biggest and strongest guy that I knew. Right. And I remember at the time he could bench press 300 pounds. And to me, that was like, holy shit, that's like the strongest man in the world as far as I was concerned. Because this is, again, I never knew anybody who could lift that much weight. And he had a big impact on me. And I remember as I started getting involved with more serious with my training, he actually invited me. Hey, he said, if you want to come work out with me, you can. So we used to work out in his basement home gym. A few of the guys from the martial arts club, we'd go over there. So we do our training in the dojo, which was a high school gymnasium. And then, the more advanced guys who wanted extra training, we would work out with our martial arts instructor in his basement home gym. And that kind of sparked my interest into weight training. And then, of course, I got my folks bought me a home gym, and I started working out with my dad as well in our own basement home gym. And that's where it kind of spurred and started. But it all started from feeling inadequate, feeling low confidence, feeling low self-esteem, getting bullied at school, and just wanting to build myself up, find some way to overcome that shyness, that insecurity. And of course, wanted to be bigger and stronger than the bullies so that they wouldn't pick on me anymore. That's what started for me. And that's what drew me into martial arts. That's what drew me into weight training, and then eventually into bodybuilding competition. And the way it worked for me is, when I was going through martial arts, like, I did that for several years, but my instructor said, you're putting more emphasis in the weight training than you are into the martial arts. And he said, like, there's no right or wrong answer here, but it's like you're chasing two rabbits here, because I noticed you're not giving it 100% to your martial arts training, but you're spending more time with the weight training. He said, like, what do you really want to focus on? And I said, I'm actually more interested in weight training at this stage of the game than I am in martial arts. And he said, well, if that's what you're focused on, that's what you're interested in. He said, do that. So, I respect him for having that openness, because, if I go do weight training, obviously it's not helping him anymore. He's not making money off me as a student anymore, but he could tell that I wasn't really committed to martial arts training. Not that I don't enjoy it or don't appreciate it, but I just had more passion for the weight training. So I went down that route. And that's what led me to competing in bodybuilding. My senior year of high school, competed at our local provincial bodybuilding championships, and I was hooked. Then it was just, I want to compete year after year and try and improve. And I'm very stubborn when it comes to that. Like, I'm very goal oriented and very stubborn, and thrive off competition. Because I remember the first time I competed, I didn't know any better. Again, this is before the days of the internet. So I'm working out in my basement home gym. I say, hey, I look pretty good. I'm in pretty good shape. I'm going to do well. Get up on the bodybuilding stage. I get my ass kicked, right? And I was blown away by the level of conditioning that the other guys were in. And then I became friends with several of those guys. And I said, hey, like, what are you guys doing? Like, I got to learn. So indirectly, I was getting coached from a lot of the more experienced bodybuilders. And where I was the young up and coming guy, some of the older guys, they could sense my enthusiasm for bodybuilding, and they're like, okay, yeah, we'll help this guy out. So a lot of them took to me and kind of like took me under their wing and coached me and guided me with regards to training and nutrition and all this. So then I came back the next year. I mean, greatly improved, still got my ass kicked. And then came back the next year and got my ass kicked. I mean, I was always getting my ass kicked. Now, I was improving, which was motivating, but there was always still somebody better. And I was always getting my ass kicked. And I did that year after year after year. And after 12 years of competition, right? It was 12 years of competition. In that time frame, I had done 10 shows over the course of those 12 years. I had finally won my first overall title. That was back in 2007. I won the heavyweight and the overall title at our provincial championships that year. And that was kind of like the pinnacle of my bodybuilding career, if you will, winning the local overall title. And I went on to compete, at the regional level, and I did several other provincial shows, still getting my ass kicked, because someone else had come along and better. But it just built that determination, that grit, that perseverance to keep going and to keep improving and to keep striving to get better and better. And that's what I did, throughout my teens, 20s, 30s. Competing in bodybuilding was my driving force. Then in 2011, I was kind of getting a bit burnt out from the stress and the repetitiveness of, the extreme cutting diets. And I decided, I'm going to take a break, right? I'm going to take a break from bodybuilding for a while. And then in 2016, my wife, Trish, she gave birth to our son, Harvey. And for those of you who are parents, what a change that makes, right? So this was like the second phase of the journey for me. And in that situation right there, then I knew what to do as far as training and nutrition. I mean, a former competitive bodybuilder, former provincial champ. I mean, I've been in shape multiple times, but now with that added responsibility of being a new parent, waking up in the middle of the night to a crying baby and bottle feedings and diaper changes and all the added responsibilities. I mean, first off, my sleep was crap. I didn't have any quality sleep. All the extra stress and responsibilities. Now I didn't have endless hours to just go to the gym and focus on me. I had to focus on the family. And my training and nutrition really took a backslide. I mean, I knew what to do intellectually, but I wasn't doing it in practice. And sure enough, a couple years of this goes by, and pants are getting a little tighter, right? I have to let the belt out another notch, and, shirt's not buttoning up. I'm like, oh, what's the heck? And looking at the reflection in the mirror, and I was like, who's that fat guy looking back at me, right? And it snuck up on me. Over the course of a couple of years, I got the quote unquote dad bod, right? That's a real thing, by the way. It's a real thing, and I got it. And then I was like, man, I got to get my SHIT together, right? I can't keep going down this road. And that's what led me to the whole muscle after 40, right? This whole kind of new movement that I'm focusing on now and helping other guys over 40 to kind of get back in shape again and reclaim the health and fitness that they probably had when they were younger, but have let it slide. Or in some cases, get in shape for the first time ever. Like some of my best coaching students have started in their 40s, 50s, and even beyond, and are now in the second half of life hitting personal bests. And that's exciting to see. But that's where it all started. I mean, I built myself up through years of bodybuilding throughout my teens, 20s, and 30s, fell off track in my mid to late 30s, and then said, hey, I got to get things back on track again, in my 40s. And that was my whole vision. I kept saying to myself, I want to be lean and muscular after 40. And that was my vision. And I busted my ass to get back in shape for 40. But I wanted to do so in a sustainable fashion, not the extreme, bodybuilding cutting diet where it's boiled chicken and broccoli and 2 hours of cardio and 6 days a week in the gym and burning the candle at both ends. I wanted to find a way where I could do it in a sustainable and enjoyable fashion where, okay, I'm not as lean and shredded as I was as a bodybuilder, but I'm still a hell of a lot better than I was as a, fat, overweight dad bod with a gut that stuck out further than my chest and 40-inch waistline. I mean, like, that's literally what it was. I remember putting the tape measure and like, oh man, we're stretching 40 plus inches right on the waist. No way, not having that. So I finally said, I had to get my act together. And that's what led to the whole muscle after 40 blueprint. And of course, over the years, we've refined it, perfected it, and kind of tweaked it as from my own experience and from coaching literally hundreds of guys through this system to now where we have literally a step-by-step blueprint, the whole Muscle After 40 blueprint program that a lot of guys are going through. And even I see several guys right now who are joining in our video chat who are going through the whole program right now. So that was my motivation, right? And I'm just curious to know, like, what's some of your motivation? Like, what was it that started you on your fitness journey, and why are you doing this, right? I mean, when I was younger, it was, of course, to build up my self-confidence and feel confident in my own skin, and of course to not get picked on by the bullies in school. As I've gotten older, it was to feel confident in my own skin again, but also now I have another motivation where it's not just about me. I want to set a positive example for my son, Harvey, right? I don't want him growing up with a fat, out of shape dad. And that is my main motivation at this stage of the game. That's my driving force, because kids don't listen to what you say. They see what you do. So, I mean, if he sees dad being fat and out of shape and not taking care of himself, subconsciously, he's going to learn that it's okay to let yourself get fat and out of shape and not take care of yourself. And that's why we see the people say, oh, like, it's genetics. My whole family is overweight and out of shape. It's not so much the genetics, it's the habits and the identity that's passed on. Because if the kids see the parents doing something, they're going to learn that, hey, that's what you do. That's acceptable. That's okay. And for me, I didn't want that to be the case for my son. So that's why I'm focusing on my health and fitness more than ever now, because I want to lead him by example. And so far, so good. We're on the right track with it. And we've even started introducing him to the gym as well. So that's my motivation. That's my driving force behind this now. It's more than just me. It's kind of leave a legacy for my family to follow and lead them by example. So just curious again, as we're going through our video chat, I know some people are probably going to share some of their personal stories about that as they're going through it as well. And it'd be interesting to touch on it. All right, we got a lot more people hopping onto our live chat. Okay, let's jump into it, guys. Let's see who else is here. We've got Richard's joining in, and Richard's actually going through the Muscle After 40 program right now, and he's made an amazing transformation, literally losing well over 100 pounds going through his fitness and fat loss journey. So welcome, Richard. Glad to have you joining us. We've got Jeff. Jeff's another regular. Seen Jeff on Facebook Live today, jamming outside with the conniption fits. He's a drummer in the band. I was watching that. Pretty cool. Query from Richard. Do you ever do gorilla rows? I'm not familiar with a gorilla row. I'm sure it's some rowing variation, but let's just do a quick Google search. What is a gorilla row? I've probably done it before, but I've just never ever called it that. Is it alternating kettlebell row? That's what I'm looking at when I'm doing Google images. I'm just going to share my screen and just let me know if this is what you're referring to. Share screen. Just give me a second there, Richard. Is this what I'm supposed to be doing or you're referring to? I'm just going to move your question there, or make that bigger if I can there. Basically kettlebell rows. It looks like a bent over row variation, but I guess you're alternating with either the kettlebells or the dumbbells. I've never done that. I've done dumbbell rows, like single arm dumbbell rows or 2-arm dumbbell rows, and bent over barbell rows and T-bar rows and a gazillion cable rows and machine rows and all that, but I can't say I've done a gorilla row. I'll have to give it a shot. Right. Moving on. I'm just going to stop that screen share there now. Where else we got there? All right. Mr. Mace Method said his goal or his motivation was to get stronger for baseball at age 12. Yeah, I can appreciate that. Getting stronger for sports. Absolutely. And I think that's a great age to get started. I mean, I personally really started getting serious with weight training at 12 myself. That's when I kind of started a structured workout instead of just frigging around in the basement with with weights. I actually had a structured program that I was doing with my dad at 12. That's when we started and I think that was a great age, because then you have your whole teenage years to really optimize it. Because let's face it, everybody from their teenage years, from the point you're 12 years old to say the point that you're 19 years old, that whole teenage puberty phase, everybody gets bigger and stronger, regardless if they work out or not. But if you follow it up with proper exercise and proper nutrition, you can make amazing progress. And I can certainly attest to that. Like, I made some amazing gains throughout my teenage years. I didn't appreciate it at the time because I thought, it should be bigger, it's not coming fast enough. But when I started, I was about 130 pounds. And I know when at 19, I was over 200 pounds at about the same body fat. So, I mean, like, you think over those years, packed on like 60 pounds of muscle onto my frame. Now, I didn't think it was much, but looking back at it now, I realize that's freaking huge. That's massive gains, but I didn't appreciate it at the time, which is common for a lot of teenagers, right? You don't appreciate it until the aftermath, and you look back and say, like, damn, that was really good progress. I wish I could make that kind of progress again. We got Opie joining in. Welcome, Opie. We have Jason joining in. Great backdrop. Thank you much. Right, Lee Hayward's Fitness. I wanted to stick that up there instead of just a plain old wall behind me. So thanks for acknowledging it. Appreciate it. Jeff is sharing his story here now. I'm disappeared under Jeff's message, but I'll read it out. Said, I started when I was 30. I started because I knew I wasn't reaching my full potential as a man, a husband, and a provider, and just a general human being. I wanted more, and I knew I was capable of more, and I decided to become the person I've always wanted to be. 5 years later, it was the best decision I ever made. Much respect, Jeff. And it just goes to show that, you can start at any age. And I'm just going to move your question there so I'm not hidden. Like, a lot of people reach out to me and say, oh, I'm in my 30s. Is it too old to start working out? Or I'm in my 40s. Is it too old to start working out? Or I'm whatever age they are. Some people say in their 50s or even in their 60s. We've got guys in the Muscle After 40 program who have literally started in their 50s, in their 60s, and are now getting in the best shape of their life. Now, is it ideal to start that late? Not necessarily. They probably could have done better if they started early, but it's like the old Chinese proverb, like, when's the best time to plant a tree? Well, the best time was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. Start now. Like, you're never going to be as young as you are right now. So do not wait. If you start procrastinating now, like, 10 years is going to go by and you're going to look back and say, like, shit, I wish I had started 10 years ago. Like, start now, regardless of how old you are. But again, I respect that. I mean, Jeff started at 30 and now he's in the best shape of his life. Right, and getting better. Right, it's exciting to see. Neil's joining in. Neil's a regular to our chats. He says, hello, Lee. What's better for building abs, heavy compound lifts or a direct ab workout? It depends on what your definition of building abs is. If you actually want to see abs in terms of, I want visible abdominal definition, it's not the compound lifts. It's not the direct ab work. It's losing the fat that's covering the abs, right? Get leaner. You're going to have better abs. Now, with that being said, let's assume fat loss is not the issue here, and you actually want to build the abdominal muscles. You have to realize the abdominal muscles, they're not power muscles. Like, nobody's going to ask you, like, hey, bro, what's your 1 rep max sit up? Like, no, it doesn't happen. Nobody cares. It's not a power move. It's not like, oh, I'm doing heavy low reps. I'm doing 5x5 abs, or like, no, nobody's doing heavy stuff for abs. They're stabilizer muscles for your core. So for abs, I find, like, doing work where you're getting more time under tension and really feeling the muscles work and incorporating different types of movements. Like, there is no one size fits all. Like, you can do athletic movements, a lot of explosive movements, twisting and rotational movements are good for building up the abs. Like, I know back when I was doing martial arts, like, all the kicking and the punching and the different moves and stuff that we used to do, like, that really helped to develop a strong core, right? Because all that different rotational and explosive movements engages the abdominals as they're meant to be used as stabilizing and supporting muscles for your core, right? That basically is what connects your upper and lower body together. But if you're looking for direct ab exercises, yes, you're going to stimulate the abdominals and the core muscles with heavy compound lifts, such as like overhead presses and squats and deadlifts and things like that. But if you really want to isolate the abs, you do need to get in those direct ab work as well. So be it like leg raises and sit-ups and crunches and planks and whatever other types of abdominal variation machines that you have at your gym. Like these days, most gyms have some sort of resistance ab exercises. And again, I incorporate a lot of them into my own workouts. I don't have like my one go-to move, if you will. I like to incorporate a lot of different abdominal exercises, but just some of my top of the mind favorites. I love planks. Planks, I think, are awesome for building the abs as they're meant to be, stabilize our muscles for the core. Different types of sit-up variations. I find like decline bench sit-ups is another one of my favorite. Leg raises, you can't beat that. That's really good for the lower abs as well as the upper thighs and hip flexors. Those are some of my favorites. And then we have some abdominal machines at the gym that I'll use as well, like some resistance crunch machines that I find work really well. But it's really the overall training stimulation that you're getting. But if you want to see the abs, as I mentioned before, you got to lose the body fat that's covering them. Like you could have amazing abdominal development, have a really strong core, and if you got a layer of pudge covering it, you're never going to see your abs, right? And that's just a harsh reality. All right. What else we got there? Bruce is joining. He says, I'm almost live. Well, I hope you are. I hope you're fully alive. Welcome, Bruce. And Bruce is another one of our regulars who's going through the whole Muscle After 40 program. Glad to have you joining in. Who else? Robert's joining here. He says, in my teen years, I was very skinny, I'm assuming he means. I saw the movie Hercules with Steve Reeves, and that got me started to get stronger. Cool. I can appreciate that. One of my early motivations, I didn't mention it, but I remember back in I can't remember exactly what year it was, but it was early 80s when Conan the Barbarian, it came on cable TV. Right, it was already in the movie theater and stuff like that, but of course, my parents wouldn't, bring me to the movies to go watch, Conan the Barbarian because that was kind of a bit too gruesome or whatever for a young kid. But I remember when it came on cable TV, the reruns afterwards, and I seen it, I watched it, and I was like, "Holy smokes! Like, there's a real life muscle man." It looked like a comic book superhero when I seen Arnold in Conan the Barbarian, and that had a big impact on me. Right, that was like, man, I want to do whatever the heck he's doing, right? So that led me to learning about Arnold. That was the first time I ever seen Arnold Schwarzenegger, and that was the first time I actually seen a bodybuilder, which I didn't even know it was a bodybuilder at the time, because again, this is back in the day before information was oozing at you through your computer and your phone. Right? We never even had computers and phones back then. No, we did have phones, but the rotary cord phone on the kitchen wall. No such thing as a smartphone back then. Just out of curiosity, who had a rotary dial corded phone in their house when they were growing up? Right? Kind of dates you if you are, but I'm just curious to see. Corbin's joining in. Welcome, Corbin. Glad to have you. Lord Chris. I guess I'm pronouncing that right. So the motivation for me, it was a breast cancer diagnosis at age 35. Traded boobs for biceps. I'm 50 now and in the best shape and health of my life. Much respect for that. Thank you for sharing that. Right. And it just goes to show, like, everybody has their own individual situation. But the common theme that you see here, it's usually people hit a challenge, a rock bottom, like the excrement hit the fan to some degree. I mean, obviously, cancer is a big excrement hitting the fan. I mean, that is a life challenge for sure. So it was the wake up call. And I find for a lot of my coaching students that I'm working with, some of the people who've made the biggest transformations, it's when they hit rock bottom and said, "That's it. Enough is enough. No more. I'm burning the bridges behind me. We're making a change. There's no going back to the old unhealthy me anymore." And I find when people are finally ready to make that change, and sometimes it takes, rock bottom. Like, I know one of our coaching students, I've done a video interview with him, and he's a regular on our Total Fitness Bodybuilding and our Muscle After 40 group, Paul Miller. Like, he had his brush with death. I mean, he had a heart attack and he almost died in the emergency room in the hospital. The ER doctors revived him, and he said one of the doctors, once he got back to consciousness again, grabbed him by the wrist and looked him in the eye and said, "The universe has given you a gift. You have a second chance at life. What are you going to do with it?" And with that, the doctor, finished up their check-in and all that with him and left. But he said those words just burnt right to his core, because he's like, I have been given a gift. I had my brush with death. I'm still here. Like this is, we hit the reset button. It's like playing a video game, game over, but no, we hit the reset and we're going to start again. And from that point on, he said, no more, right? No more just eating crap and neglecting my health and fitness and not focusing on exercise. Because he went his whole life. He was 62 when this happened, and he had a heart attack at 62 because he was overweight. He was out of shape. He didn't exercise. He totally took his health for granted, totally abused his body, but he turned it around. And now he is the biggest advocate of health and fitness. I mean, not only has he achieved his own transformation, but now he actually has a fitness group through his local church called Fitness with Friends, where he's teaching other seniors the benefits of fitness and nutrition and exercise. And they meet every week at their local church. They got their group, Fitness with Friends. And he has a big group. I mean, they're having 20 to 30 people joining in on this weekly group where he's basically teaching his own experience through his own life lessons, how to improve your health and fitness. And he's gearing it towards an older population, people who would probably be intimidated to go to the gym or intimidated to listen to the 20-something-year-old fitness guru on social media, but they're more willing to listen to a 70-year-old man who started working out at age 62 and now is in the best shape of his life, because they can relate to that. So it's always inspiring to see. But sometimes, man, we need to hit rock bottom before we actually have that wake-up call. Like, something's got to change. I can't keep doing the same thing I'm doing, or I'm not going to live much longer. So again, thank you for sharing that. Much appreciated. Lee says, my journey of keeping fit started when I was 13, and I found an old rusty dumbbell in a garage. I brought it home, and every night I laid on my bed, pressing and curling the dumbbell, and it gave me a buzz. I can appreciate that. My early start with weights was sort of similar. My dad had the old York cement-filled barbell and dumbbell sets. It's just a 1-inch barbell, and you had these big, ginormous cement-filled weight plates. Like, they looked huge, but they weren't that heavy because it's not iron. It's literally plastic and cement. But we had a set of those. So I remember the little adjustable dumbbells with the plastic, clamps that go on the end of it. And that's where I started. I'd started messing around with the York barbell and dumbbell set down in the basement that my dad had there. But humble beginnings for sure, right? Yeah. Let's see. Louis joining in. He says, good afternoon. It's good to catch the podcast live. He says, do you ever hear anything about Tums for delayed onset muscle soreness? Does it really work? Can't say I have heard anybody using Tums for muscle soreness. I mean, Tums, basically it's calcium. It's good for heartburn and indigestion, right? What's it? Heartburn, upset stomach, indigestion, diarrhea. I'm thinking Pepto-Bismol here. But as far as DOMS, I can't say I've heard it. Now, with that being said, calcium and meeting, it's a vital mineral that you need. It's the most abundant mineral in the body. So making sure that you're getting adequate calcium could certainly help, but I've never personally used Tums, and I can't say I've really heard of anybody who has. Right? Tell you one thing that I would recommend for muscle soreness, if you are experiencing it, supplementing with amino acids. This is very powerful, like essential amino acids while you're training, especially when you're doing high intensity training or long duration training. Like if you're doing a really hard weight training workout or a really hard cardio session or a hard sporting event or a hard physical event, let's say you're doing physical labor or going out for a day-long hike or a day-long bike ride or something like that. You're really pushing yourself. drinking amino acids. And what I mean by that, I get the amino acid powder, I mix it in with my water bottle, and I sip it during my workouts. Having that will provide rapidly absorbing amino acids that can be easily and rapidly digested and then utilized by your working muscles. Because the benefit of amino acids versus protein, because protein is basically just amino acids, right? I mean, like when the protein is digested and broken down, it's broken down into amino acids. But when you actually get an amino acid supplement, it's already basically broken down to its most basic level. So the digestion process is, almost instant. I mean, when you consume amino acids, within 20 minutes, they're actually in your system and being able to be used by the body. Whereas if you chew down a chicken breast, that's going to take several hours before it's broken down into the absorbable amino acids that your body needs. So if you want to help speed up recovery, amino acids during hard training sessions can certainly make a noticeable difference. And I do this myself. I'll supplement with amino acids, and I find it makes a significant difference. Another strategy for soreness after your workouts, hot and cold therapy. So, I mean, it could be like alternating hot and cold showers, or hot shower and a cold bath or something like that, or a hot tub and a cold shower, some form of hot and cold therapy where you're alternating hot and cold, because that helps to flush blood flow through the muscles without you having to physically do anything. Because when you have the hot water, it forces blood to the surface of the skin, it flushes. And then when you have the cold water, it pulls blood to the core, and you're literally flushing blood throughout the muscles and helps improve circulation without you having to actually do anything. And you could do this just in the shower. Like as you're getting a shower after your workout, flip it to as hot as you can comfortably stand, for a minute, and then flip it to cold, right? Like turn the hot entirely off and just have pure cold water coming on you. Have that for a minute, and then flip it to hot, and then flip it to cold, and do that several times throughout your shower. And that will help to ease up the muscle soreness. I mean, that's a strategy that works really well. And if you have a hot tub and a cold shower, you could do that. Or if you have a hot tub and a swimming pool, you could use that as well. I mean, any type of hot and cold therapy is a great strategy. All right, what else we got there? Adil's joining in. Says, what type of cardio do you prefer for fat loss? Walking, jogging, swimming, or cycling? All of the above will work. I mean, bottom line, as long as you're in a calorie deficit, you can burn body fat. But from a practical point of view and personal experience, I've gotten my best results from a fat loss point of view with low intensity cardio. So of all those that you listed there, the one that I've utilized the most and with the most success from a pure fat burning point of view, not talking cardiovascular fitness or exercise performance point of view, but just pure fat burning, walking. And I know that may sound pretty wimpy because a lot of people think, oh, you're just going for a walk, like big deal. But the thing about walking is pretty much anybody can do it. You can do it without beating yourself up, and you're not breaking down your body, and it's not going to hinder your recovery from weight training or other forms of exercise. So you could still do your weight training workouts and add in a daily walk along with it. And it's almost like a form of active recovery. It could actually help the recovery process from your weight training. But in doing so, you're burning some fat, you're burning calories, but you're not beating yourself up. Whereas if you start running, or you start doing swimming or cycling, and you're pushing it hard, what happens then is you're placing more stress and demands on the body because it's a higher intensity cardio. And the harder and more high intensity the cardio, the more it's breaking down your body. But another thing is it increases your appetite, because when you work hard, it makes you hungrier. Whereas walking, like just going for a casual walk and not really killing yourself, you're burning calories, but you're not beating up your body, and it's not really having a major impact on your appetite. Whereas if you go jogging, you go swimming, you go cycling, it's going to make you hungrier. And very often, you go out and you burn a ton of calories jogging or cycling or whatever, and then you're hungry and you come back and you overeat and you cancel out the calories you just burned doing the cardio. That's a common thing. And if you look at endurance sports, like you look at a lot of people who run marathons or triathletes, who swim and cycle and run, and people who are like, let me just clarify this, like amateur level endurance athletes. You know, like you go to your local triathlon, for example, or your local marathon or whatever. Look at the average physiques of people who are doing those events. More often than not, they're going to be overweight. And unless you see them physically doing it, like you would never have any idea that they were an athlete at all, because their physique doesn't match the look of an athlete. Now, of course, there's going to be exceptions to the rule. There's going to be some more advanced and more serious people who are like lean and shredded and obviously in amazing shape. But the vast majority of them are probably going to be overweight. And the reason why they're overweight, even though they're doing a ton of cardio, is because they use the cardio as a justification to eat whatever they want. And I see this all the time. Like I'm in recent years have gotten serious into cycling. And a lot of the people that I cycle with, I mean, they full on admit, they say, my diet is shit. The only thing that keeps me either bit weight under control at all is the fact that I'm so active. But, you know, they're still soft. They're still smooth. They still got to roll a belly pudge. Like there's no visible abdominal definition or anything like that, because of the fact that they're doing a ton of cardio and they're burning a ton of calories, but they're over consuming junk food. Like they'll use the excuse, oh, hey, I'm going to have some cakes and some sweets, or I'm going to go to the restaurant and I'm going to eat whatever I want because, well, I'm so active, I'm going to burn it off. You can't outtrain a poor diet, right? It's just not going to happen. So diet is the key. And then if you want to enhance the diet, adding in some low intensity cardio, such as walking, is a great way to do it, because it's just enough to bump up the calorie burning, but not enough to throw off your recovery, or not enough to really throw off, you know, increase your appetite to an uncontrollable level, which can very often happen when you do the higher intensity cardio. Now, with that being said, if you have a lot of discipline and willpower, you can still do the high intensity cardio, but you have to exercise your personal power to control the appetite. And that can work for you. But, you know, it's always your body's constantly fighting itself. Like the more you burn, the more you want to eat. Right. So it's always that battle back and forth. And that's why I find the lower intensity cardio tends to be more effective. All right, moving on. Let's see what else we got there. Let me grab a sip of water before we get to the next one. J.E. says, do you go for full lockout on all your exercises? Any benefits to doing 2/3 range only? Personally, I usually go through full range of motion with most of my exercises, but there could be exceptions, and there can be benefits to doing partial range of motion. Back when I was training for powerlifting, we would purposely do partial range of motion, usually in the power rack, to strengthen the top end of an exercise. Like you do bench press lockouts or deadlift lockouts or squat lockouts or something like that in the power rack, just work that top range of motion. And the reason behind that is because in that strong range, you can lift a lot heavier than you can through the full range. So you can still build up the joints, tendons, and ligaments and get your body accustomed to lifting heavier weight in the strong range of motion, which then it'll make you feel more confident with the full range of motion weight. So like, for example, if you did some really heavy lockout work, then when you handle your regular full range of motion weight, it feels light in comparison because you were just used to handling the heavier weight in the lockout range. From a bodybuilding point of view, some guys like to do partial range of motion where they're not fully locking out the reps and getting just more time under tension. So like they may do instead of the top end strong range, they may do like the bottom range. Sometimes like they'll do bench presses, but they won't fully lock it out. Or they may do whatever. They'll do various exercises without going through the full range. They'll just kind of do more of a pumping in the mid range. And, you know, that can work as well. Like it gets a lot of time under tension. The muscles don't really get a chance to relax if you're not locking out. And sometimes it just creates a lot of blood flow and a lot of time under tension. So there's a time and a place for all of this. But overall, like for the average person, and like when I'm coaching people in the gym and getting people set up on a program, I always recommend let's learn the exercise with a full range of motion. And then as they become more advanced, we can manipulate the range of motion depending on what it is they're training for. So again, if somebody is training for powerlifting, hey, maybe we're going to do some lockout exercises to build that top end strength. Or if somebody's trying to bring up a stubborn body part, hey, maybe we're going to do some short mid-range partials to just really pump up that area. But that's more of an advanced strategy. But we want to lay the foundation with full range of motion, control the positive, control the negative, and make sure that you can do a full exercise range of motion. That's where I always start with. Let's see what else we got there. Adil says, can being muscle bound hurt with playing sports well? Most athletes aren't very muscular. It depends on the sport. Some sports favor a more muscular build and some don't. And it's not right, wrong, good or bad. It depends on the situation. So like, let's just use an example. If football players, linebackers, or someone like that, bigger, stronger, beefier, that's usually more advantageous. Someone who's doing a more explosive sport or something who's more running or whatever, they're going to want a different physique. So it depends on the sport. Like there are certain sports that favor a bigger, more muscular, stronger physique. There's others that favor a smaller, leaner, more agile, more explosive physique. And then, of course, when you're getting into the endurance world, the smaller is generally better because the smaller they are, the less weight they have to carry for that distance. Like if you look at elite level runners or elite level cyclists, long distance runners, long distance cyclists, that is, they tend to be very lean. Now, on the flip side, when you have sprinters, like track sprinters, they tend to be quite muscular. And even when you look at track cyclists, who do high intensity, short duration, they tend to be quite muscular. Like some of the best legs I've ever seen are from like track sprinter, not track sprint, cycling sprinters who race on the velodrome. That's what I'm getting at. You just search for like some of the greatest. Like I got to just do a quick Google search here. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Again, it depends on the sport. Track cyclists. Yeah, if you search for that. Because I got to show you something. Like, again, genetics play a big role here as well, but some guys have like ridiculously huge legs. I want to just share this with you because it's freaking inspiring. I'll just share my screen for a moment. Share screen. Right here. Like, look at this. Like, this is insane. Right? Like the quads on some of these track cyclists is just freaking huge. Like it rivals world-class bodybuilders in some cases. Now, again, this is the exception, not the rule, right? These are the elite of the elite. But again, it goes to show, like, he's a cyclist, but he's very freaking muscular. Now, when you look at, what's his name? Tour de France cyclist legs, it's a different. They're skinny, they're leaner. I'm trying to think of some of the guys. Tadej Pogačar, he won the Tour de France a couple years ago, and what's the Jonas Vingegaard, the Danish cyclist who won it recently and stuff. Like some of those guys, like they're a very slender cyclist, and for the long distance work, like the Tour de France, the skinnier and smaller they are, the easier it is. Right? Because they have less mass to carry up those mountain climbs. But for short duration, having that mass can be advantageous. So it's not that it's going to help or hinder. It depends on the situation. Some sports favor it, some sports don't. Right? Which is cool because there's a sport for every body type, right? I mean, that's kind of the part of the reason too, like even in the sport of bodybuilding, why they've introduced so many more categories. Like you have open bodybuilding, which is old school bodybuilding as we all know it. And that's kind of attracts, the mass monsters. Then you have classic bodybuilding, which is kind of in the middle. Like there's a height weight cutoff, so you can't be too big. And then you have physique, which favors more of the smaller physique again. It's that lean, athletic, muscular physique, but it's not the mass monster of the open bodybuilding. So it's nice that we have sports that favor all these different body types. So you can't say, well, I've got bad genetics. Well, maybe you have bad genetics for one sport, but it might be ideal genetics for another. So it's pretty cool when you have it that way, and you can kind of pick and choose what you want to focus on. Let's see what else. Another question here from Shehab. I guess I'm pronouncing that right. Sadly, I was the bully in my school. So what inspired me to begin my journey was to bully them with more muscles. But I was a kind bully, and I never crossed the line. I appreciate the honesty. All right. It works both ways. You can be motivated by you can be motivated because you were bullied, or you can be motivated because you are the bully. But I appreciate the honesty. I wonder, did it ever come back to haunt you? I like some people who can look back at it and kind of like make fun of it all now and in retrospect. I wonder, does there such a thing as karma that comes full circle? Like, okay, I was the bully in high school, but now as an adult, I'm getting bullied in other areas, so to speak. I just wonder if that does come about. Because deep down, I kind of have that belief in what goes around comes around. Treat others as you would have people treat you, like the golden rule, so to speak. So I just wonder if it's come back to haunt you, where you were the bully in school, or people bullying you now in some way or another. All right, next question. This is from Rocher. It says, I've added behind the neck presses and my shoulders have become completely pain-free. What do you think about the push press in upping strength regarding the overhead press? Interesting. I've added behind the neck presses and my shoulders become completely pain-free. Most fitness gurus would probably say the opposite. I'm doing behind the neck presses is going to hurt your shoulders. But everyone's unique, and there's a time and a place for all these different situations. In my case, I don't really do direct behind the neck presses, but sometimes I will do Bradford presses, which that's alternating pressing to the front and then pressing to the back, and you use a relatively moderate weight for it, but you alternating, and I find that helps to open up the shoulder mobility, open up the shoulder joint. And that's one that a couple questions ago, someone was asking about range of motion. This is one where I will not fully lock out. So I'll just lift the bar high enough to clear my head. So press to the front, press to the back, and press to the front. So it's almost like, you're clearing your head. That's all I would do. And that's known as a Bradford press. And that exercise, the name Bradford comes because it was invented by an Olympic lifter named Jim Bradford back in the day. And that was a movement that he used to increase his shoulder strength and pressing power. But it's really good for shoulder mobility. So it could be, that's part of the reason why you find, like, okay, doing the behind the neck presses, it may have helped open up the shoulder joint and increase your range of motion a bit. So again, for every reason not to do something, you could argue there is a reason to do it as well. Because some people say, oh, it's going to place too much stress and injure yourself. But if you're lifting within your means and doing so safely and with proper form, there is a benefit in those situations. But the big one you're asking, the actual question is, what do you think about the push press in helping to improve strength for the overhead press? Absolutely. I mean, the push press, for those of you who are wondering, it's basically an overhead shoulder press, like a military press, but you're using a bit of leg drive, right? And the advantage of that is by using the leg drive, you're locking out heavier weight than you normally would be able to do in a strict press. And then you can still control the negative on the way down. And that's where you're going to get a lot of the strength and muscle building benefits. So you're getting your body conditioned handling heavier weight, and you're still building up all the stabilizing and supporting muscles throughout your core, your back, your arms, your shoulders. All of those areas are still handling heavier weight with the push press. And that indirectly is going to help to improve your strict overhead press. So yeah, it's a great carryover exercise or assistant exercise to help strengthen that. Right? The only thing, I mean, obviously you have to lift within your means and use proper form and all that, because when you are using more body English, more explosive lifting, there is a greater risk of injury. Like, there's heavier weights, there's more momentum, more explosive movement. So the risk of injury is a bit greater than if you were doing a strict controlled press. But, as long as you're listening to your body and lifting within your means, you can work that into your favor and use it as a strength building move for sure. Another one here. I got an injury in my biceptal tendon. Made a lot of recovery sessions, but the pain disappears and then comes again. It never left. Can you advise? I really need to know more about, like, what it is you're doing and what flares it up. The best thing that I can suggest is, if you find a certain exercise or movement causes pain and discomfort, do not do that exercise or do that movement. Try and find another variation instead. And it's weird when you're working around tendon and ligament pain like this, because you may do a certain exercise with your hands in a one position and it causes pain, but then you change your hands, change your grip, change the exercise variation, and you may be able to do a similar movement pain free. And it's weird how the body works like that. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, very often I'll get elbow tendonitis flare up, either golfer's elbow, which is usually on the inside, or tennis elbow, which is usually on the outside. And that's a common thing. Like, it flares up for me, not maybe every year or two. I'll have a flare up and I'll have to work around it. And I find just changing my grip. So, for example, like last time I had it flare up, I couldn't do regular curls with the palms up grip. You know, I couldn't do it, but I could do hammer curls with a thumbs up grip. Just that change in grip. So, like, I can't do a dumbbell curl with the supinating, but I can do a hammer curl. So I just switched it up. All right, instead of doing regular curls, I'm going to do hammer curls. And that allowed me to work around that injury and then let it heal. The biggest thing is you want to avoid aggravating the injury so your body can actually heal and recover from it. But that's usually how I work around tendon and ligament issues, is I just find what hurts, don't do it, and then experiment with different variations to see what movements I can do comfortably. And another strategy you might want to try as well, especially for like rowing exercises or pull downs or pull-ups or anything like that, using lifting straps. Even if your grip is not a limiting factor, when you use lifting straps to reinforce your grip, you can kind of use a lighter grip and very often not pulling with the arms as much, and you can focus on pulling more with the back and the lats. You know, so like if you find that rows or pull-ups or pull downs or whatever flares up that tendon in your arms, sometimes using lifting straps might be a way to work around it and to alleviate some of that strain. That's another strategy that I've done in some of my workaround for tendon issues. But it really comes down to a lot of trial and error on your part to see what you can and can't do, and avoid anything. Like, anything that causes pain and discomfort, like, don't do it. Even if you have to scrap that exercise entirely, that's fine, because trying to work through the pain and think, oh, I'm not going to be a pussy, I'm still going to push through, you're causing more harm than good, and you're actually delaying the process over the long term. You know, if needed, you're better off to just stop those exercises entirely and work on other body parts and other exercises until you recover. All right, what else we got there? Bill A. Bill A 87. What's up, Lee? Hope you're feeling better now and COVID is a distant memory. I am feeling much better. Thanks for asking. For those of you who are regulars, you know, last month I got hit with COVID for the first time. Like, I went through the whole pandemic days without having any issues, and then just last month I got walloped with it, and it was the sickest and the worst that I can remember feeling in a long time. Like, it really hit me hard, and I was useless for a couple weeks. I was totally useless, didn't want to do anything. And then the lingering effects, I mean, it still lingered on for a month or so. I mean, I'm not 100% back to normal in terms of strength and stamina, but I'm, from a practical day-to-day point of view, I'm pretty darn good. Like, I can function normally, but even I noticed my stamina on the bike, it's still not back to where it was. So it's probably going to take a little while to build that back up again. But overall, I'm feeling much better, and I have a big appreciation for how bad it was. You know, and for people who've had it and had it multiple times. Like, I mean, man, it's no joke, right? I know, like, everyone has different variations of it. Like, some people say, oh, it's only a minor cold, nothing to it. But it hit me hard, and then it kind of took me out for several weeks for sure. Let's see what else we got there. Some people just thanking me for their question stuff, old school phones. Thank you. Good stuff. All right. Appreciate it, guys. All right, another question here. This one's from Paul. What's better, high volume, training one body part a day, or doing 2 body part workouts? There is no better. It depends on you, your situation, your goals, all this stuff. Like to try to put it in a different perspective, let's imagine someone says, what's the best course to do in school? Right? Should I go study business? Should I go study engineering? Should I go become a lawyer? Should I go become a doctor? What's best? It depends, because there's people who are successful in all those careers, right? It's not that one is better, worse, good, or bad. It depends. What's your interest? What are you focusing on? What do you want to focus on? Same when it comes to your workouts. It's not like, hey, should I do one body part a day? Should I do a body part split? Should I do a total body workout? It depends. Personally, I like total body workouts. That's what I kind of focus on more often than not. Now, I'll still from time to time incorporate like a body part split, or just go in and focus on specific body parts from time to time. But more often than not, I'll do total body workouts, because that's what fits my schedule at this stage of the game. That's what fits my fitness goals at this stage of the game. Because when I was younger and competing in bodybuilding, as I mentioned earlier in the chat, like I was doing body part splits, okay, it'd be chest day, it'd be back day, it'd be leg day, it'd be arm day, shoulder day, whatever. Now, I'm not in the gym 6-7 days a week. I'm in the gym 3 days a week tops. So instead of going in there and, okay, today is chest, next day is back, next day is legs, and then I'll have to, okay, the week after that, I'm going to train arms. Like, it's just be these big, long gaps between workouts, because I'm only going to the gym 3 days a week. So I like to do total body workouts. And instead of hitting like annihilating one muscle group at a time, I usually pick one exercise for each muscle group, and I'll do that and just kind of have an overall stimulation. And I find by just a light stimulation for each muscle group, I can rest, recover, and grow, not get that delayed onset muscle soreness, not aggravate my joints or anything like that. Because that's another thing I found with body part splits, is when I do chest day, and you do 20 sets for chest, and my shoulders bother me afterwards. Or you do bicep day and 20 sets for biceps, oh man, my elbows are killing me. Or same thing, you do 20 plus sets for legs, and oh man, my knees are killing me the next day. I find when I do a total body workout and it's just a light stimulation for all those major muscle groups, I don't get any joint pain. Like, knock on wood, I haven't had any significant joint pain since I've been doing total body workouts. So it's easier for my body to recover. It's like a light stimulation, rest, recover, grow, light stimulation, rest, recover, grow. And I'm not destroying my body. I'm not breaking it down, but I'm still able to make progress, and I'm able to enjoy it. And that's the big thing. So it's, you got to have a look at your overall situation. Like, what's your schedule? Like, do you have time to be in the gym 6 days a week? If you do, maybe a body part split would be ideal. If you only have time for 2 or 3 workouts a week, maybe you want to look into like a total body or upper lower split or something like that. So again, you can make progress with all of the above, as long as you're consistent, right? Like, consistency trumps intensity. Consistency trumps everything. Like, regardless, like, you could have the best program designed by God himself, sent down from heaven above, customized to you and your body type and your genetics. If you're not consistent with it, it wouldn't produce as good a results as if you had a half-ass program that you were consistent with. So consistency is the most important thing. After that, then we can start nitpicking over the details of, hey, what's going to work best for your schedule, your goals, your fitness level, your injuries, your mobility issues, all that stuff, right? So that's where having a coach who can customize things to you versus just spitting out cookie cutter plans. Like, that annoys me when I see people on fitness influencers who say, well, everybody should do this. Like, everybody should do a body part split, or everybody should do push-pull legs, or everybody should do whatever. No, everybody should not do the same thing that you do, because they're probably not the same as you, or the same schedule, same situation, or same goals. They should do what works the best for them at this stage of their life, at this level of fitness, yada, yada, yada. And that's where having someone who can tailor and customize it. It's almost like going into the tailor and saying, well, everybody should wear the same size suit. Of course not. Some guys are taller, some guys are shorter, some guys are thicker, some guys are thinner. Like, we're not going to take the same suit and put it on everybody and say, that's your suit, everybody wear the same one. No, you want to customize it to you, your body type, and what fits you. Same applies with your workouts. It's not like everybody follow this workout because it's the best. We're going to customize it and tailor it to you. And that's what we do within our whole coaching program, is we tailor it to everybody. So even though we have like literally dozens of guys who are going through the program, everyone's following their own unique journey. Like we're following the same core principles, but everyone's on their own unique journey. Like some guys are doing a body part split. Some guys are doing total body. Some guys are doing home workouts. Some guys are doing gym workouts. Like it's tailored to the situation and to the individual. All right, what else we got there? Adil saying, how difficult is it to be a hybrid athlete, meaning carrying a lot of muscle while being able to run a marathon, for example? I made a video about this a while back. I could probably dig it up and share it with you. I'm just going to do a quick search for it here now, because it was a video I did for actually one of my coaching students, and I went into a lot of detail about this. I can't remember the title of it, so I'm going to have to do a quick search here for you. But the simple answer here, Adil, is there's going to be some compromises. Like you can't have everything. And there's a reason why power lifters and strongman are not running marathons. And there's a reason why marathon runners are not entering the world's strongest man competition or stepping on the Mr. Olympia stage. It depends, right? You can't have it all. Now, with that being said, some people like to have good overall fitness, and instead of being great at any one thing, they like to be good at a lot of things. It's almost like, you can be a jack of all trades and a master of none. That can apply to fitness. Or you can be a master of one specific thing and then suck at something else. That's usually the way it works. So I'm just going to share that link with you here. I'm going to post it in the chat windows. It's called Strength versus Endurance. Does endurance training build muscle? That was the title of the video, and I basically break down the differences. So I'm just going to type that into the comments, so you can go check that one out after this video chat if you want. But the bottom line is there's going to be some compromise, right? There, if you're trying to hold on to a lot of muscle, that is going to be extra dead weight that you have to carry if you're doing long distance running or cycling or whatever. Vice versa, if you're trying to maximize your strength and you don't have that mass on your frame, I mean, you're not going to be able to generate as much strength and power. So there's a compromise. There always is. And now, with that being said, you could still be pretty good at both, right? Like that's what I've kind of been focusing on in recent years. Like I've been doing a lot of cycling in recent years, and I've actually competed and done some local races and local sportif group rides and stuff. And like I can hold my own. I mean, I'm pretty good for local level stuff, but I mean, like I'm not going to go off and compete at any national level. I mean, I get my ass kicked in a heartbeat. Right. I mean, I wouldn't be able to hold up against any serious level competition, but some small local fun stuff. I mean, I can hold my own and enjoy it. And that's what it's all about. It's at the end of the day, it's like, are you enjoying what you're doing? I mean, most of us are not trying to be professional athletes. Like I'm sure very few people watching this right now have like you're training for the Mr. Olympia, or you're training for the Tour de France, or you're training for whatever, or you're training for, to win the next Ironman. I mean, you probably would like to compete in some of those things, meaning, hey, I'd like to do a bodybuilding show, or I'd like to do a marathon, a local show, or I'd like to do a triathlon, but you're not trying to be, a world champion in either one of these. You're just doing it for your own personal goals to be the personal best version of you. And that's fine. Like you can still I mean, obviously I'm looking at your profile picture and I know we've worked together in the past. Like you've got a muscular physique. So if you want to get into endurance, that muscle mass is going to be a bit of a hindrance, but you can still improve. You can still improve upon where you are right now. I mean, you may not be as good as some of the naturally smaller, skinnier guys. If you're looking to run a marathon, for example, they're probably still going to smoke you, but you could still hold your own and work on being the best version of you. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Because even for people who are genetically gifted for a specific sport, be it, hey, I'm genetically gifted for marathons, or I'm genetically gifted for bodybuilding or powerlifting or whatever, there's still going to be someone who's better, right? And if there's not, there will be soon. Like even look at the top of the top, like in pro bodybuilding, you had like hey, I remember that when I started, Lee Haney was reigning Mr. Olympia. And then Dorian Yates came along. Like, holy shit, Dorian's way better than Lee was. And then Ronnie came along. Oh, Ronnie was way better than Dorian was. And now you got the current reigning Mr. Olympia guys. Like, there's always someone who's going to be better. Even if you're at the top of the top, someone's going to eventually come and dethrone you and be better and surpass what you achieved. And that applies at all levels. So, hey, don't get hung up on what other people are doing. Focus on being the best version of you. And if you do that, then you can always win, and you can always enjoy the process and enjoy the journey. All right, what else we got there? Second now, guys. TS, thank you for your support, and thanks for tuning in. He says, hey, Lee, I've done a 6-week streak, 3 days a week. I feel amazing. It's more muscles. It's feeling you get mentally after it keeps me going. That is called the gym bug, as we're getting jacked, as well as getting jacked. Well, thanks for sharing that. And again, kudos for you for, hey, you're on a streak now, 6 weeks, 3 days a week. Hey, next week's another week. See if you can bang out another 3, and just take it day by day, week by week, and just focus on the next one more. Just see if you can keep that streak going. And if you do fall off track, forgive, correct, continue, and start again. Like, I know sometimes we like to have these streaks going, and feels really good when you get those streaks going. But then if you screw up, it's okay. Like, it doesn't mean, oh, I knew I couldn't keep this going. I'm going to throw in the towel and the hell with it. Start again, right? You got a little X on the calendar. Okay, you missed a week here and there, or you missed a workout here and there. Big deal. Forgive, correct, continue, start again where you left off, and keep moving forward. And it's the bigger picture, right? But again, thanks for your support. And again, congrats for keeping that streak going. Hopefully you'll tune in next week and be able to say, hey, I got a 7-week streak. And then the following week, hey, I got an 8-week streak, and keep it going. All right, what else we got there? I just lost my place in the chat. Rosher. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but anyway, I'll read the question. Without bias, including respect to a few other coaches, you are by far the most knowledgeable bodybuilding coach there is. Your exercise form, safety tips, cadence are clearly accurate. Thank you. Well, I appreciate that. I respect you for sharing that, and it certainly means a lot. But I'm sure there's other people who are better than me, right? But I do appreciate it. I mean, there's a lot of good coaches out there, and like the whole idea of the best, that's a big title. But the fact that you put me in such high regard, that's greatly appreciated. I really do. I do appreciate it, and thanks for your support. I try my best. Let's put it that way. I try my best, and if we're trying our best, then I guess we're doing our best. Let's see what else we got there. Bama booma pa. Bama boom pa. 70 years old and got in the gym after about 35 years. Last visits were super slow Nautilus reps. 70 years old. 70 years old. Good for you, man. Like, I respect that. I really do. The fact that you've got the courage and the cojones to go to the gym at 70, when most people, to go to the grocery store at 70 is an adventure, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of people, they just, as they get older, they're like, oh, this is not worth it. I give up. I'm over the hill. I'm like, insert excuse after excuse after excuse, and you just say, screw it. And then they try and distract themselves with television and social media and whatever, and going to the mall and being a people watcher or whatever, or hanging out at the coffee shops with the other 70-year-olds who aren't exercising and doing anything. And you just kind of settle into the status quo, like, oh, I'm an old man, time to slow down, right? Get out the rocking chair. No, man, like, I respect that. Like, going to the gym and being active. Hey, if you're doing Nautilus slow reps, that's better than no reps. Kudos to you for that. And I just want to share, like, a couple of years ago, I went on a bike packing trip. It was We went from up the northern peninsula of Newfoundland. It was a 10-day bike packing trip, and there was people from all over the world went there. It was a big group. There was 35 of us in this group. It was a supported trip. And the oldest guy in that group was 80 years old. And he held his own with everybody else. I mean, there's people there less than half his age, doing it. But he held his own. And over the course of the 7 days, we did just shy 800 kilometers up the northern peninsula of Newfoundland. So, I mean, it's not world records distance by any stretch, but hey, it's freaking respectable distance. And to be able to do that, like cycle 800 kilometers in 10 days at 80 years old and keep up with the group, I mean, it was freaking admirable and respectable. And I mean, it's just like, I want to be like you when I grow up. Like I don't want to be the old lazy, out of shape, sitting on the couch, 80, 70-year-old, whatever. Like, unfortunately, most people are. Like, I don't want to mention names. Like, I have a lot of friends and family members and neighbors who are in that category. And the biggest form of exercise they get is like walking to the fridge and then jogging to the toilet when they got to go. Right. So the fact that you're at the gym, kudos to you. Much respect. All right, let's see what else we got there. Man from Earth. I guess there's a lot of mans from Earth here watching this, but we have one here, Man from Earth. How not to get hungry between meals. The food choices is going to make a big difference here. Like what it is you're eating can have a huge impact. And like this is something we could go into a lot of detail on, like within our whole Muscle After 40 coaching program. Like this is the ongoing conversation we're having week after week after week, helping people to optimize their nutrition. But some general strategies. First off, the food choices, more single ingredient foods. And when I say single ingredient foods, I'm especially meaning protein, vegetables, complex carbohydrates, big high volume foods like that. And I'll give you an example. Like if you're eating protein like chicken or meat or fish or eggs or things like that nature, it's very filling and very satiating. Whereas if you're eating processed foods, especially packaged foods, insert whatever it could be, for the volume of calories consumed and how easy it is to eat and the desire to eat, it's so much easier to overeat processed foods than it is to overeat natural unprocessed foods, especially protein. Protein is one of the most satiating foods there is. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of bodybuilders will eat high protein diets, not only to build muscle tissue and to provide the raw material the body needs, but to satiate their appetite. And I'll give you an example. Like, let's say I put a plate of 6 cookies in front of you, 6 big cookies, not the little tiny cookies, but like 6 big homemade chocolate chip cookies. Could you eat 6 homemade chocolate chip cookies if you really had to? You probably could. And probably it wouldn't take much encouragement for you to actually do that. You could probably just start eating one. Man, that tastes good. I'll eat another one. That tastes good. Like you could probably easily polish off 6 cookies. What if I put 6 chicken breasts in front of you? Could you sit down and eat 6 grilled chicken breasts? Probably not. Very few people could. Because you'd eat one chicken breast, you say, okay, that was good. Eat another one, you're like, okay, I'm getting pretty full now. Probably force down a third if you really tried. And then after that, you'd be like, man, I'm sick of eating chicken. I don't want to eat anymore. Because it's naturally satiating. It's naturally filling. It's like you just can't endlessly sit down and gorge yourself on chicken breasts. You'll get to the point where I want to stop eating chicken. Whereas when it comes to the processed food, it's like chips and cookies and donuts and whatever, these type of foods, you can just eat and eat and eat. And it's almost like there's no satiating it. There's no filling the hole. You just keep eating and keep going back for more. Right? Same applies with vegetables. Like how many people go on a big vegetable binge, and just, hey man, I broke open the bag of broccoli, man, and I couldn't stop. I ate the whole thing. Never happens. But how many people go on a potato chip binge where, hey, I opened up the bag of potato chips and now I'm scratching the bottom of the bag? Happens all the time. Right. So food choices is a big one. That's probably the number one strategy right there. If you want to not feel hungry, fill up on the natural unprocessed foods. That's the biggest one right there. And the thing is you can eat such a high volume of those foods where you're filling up your stomach that you just naturally don't want to eat anymore. But if you're eating the processed foods, even if you're trying to keep the calories low, but like you're counting your calories and making sure you stay within a certain target, but there's a lot of processed foods in there, you're going to be very hungry, and it's going to require a lot of discipline and willpower to keep that calorie in check. Whereas if you're eating the natural unprocessed foods, very often it takes very little discipline and willpower because you just naturally get full and satiated from it. But again, if you want more help with this and like go into a more detail, like busting out a nutrition plan to help you with that, feel free to reach out to me and we can discuss it. And another thing that I recommend too, and this is for everybody watching this, last week I did a fat loss masterclass covering the top 10 fat loss tips. And it's a YouTube video. It's a big one that I did with some of my Muscle After 40 coaching students. If you haven't checked that out already, go back and check that out. It's one of my most recent videos. It's called Fat Loss Masterclass, I think it is. What was the title again? I have to remember. What was it? I just go to my uploads recent. It's the top 10 fat loss tips that you can start using today. And then the thumbnail says it's a lose your gut masterclass. That's what it's called. But in fact, I'll just post it to our chat window. I'll just type it in there so you can go check that out. That's going to cover some great strategies that you can use to also curb your appetite, but to get you on the right track to burning body fat. Fat loss master class. Boom. There we go. All right. Where else was we to? And thank you for your support. Much appreciated. I'm glad you found the video chat helpful. Good stuff. What else we got there? I saw an 80-year-old woman deadlifting yesterday at the gym. Well, the fact that you've seen an 80-year-old woman at the gym is respectable, and the fact that she was deadlifting is like double respectable. So good for her. All right? That makes me feel good. That gives you hope for the future when you see stuff like that. So again, for those of you master athletes out there, kudos to you. Much appreciated. Much respect. All right, so this is a follow-up to that question I just answered. Yes, but if I eat more protein and more vegetables to stop being hungry, I go over my calorie target. I love healthy food. I'm going to tell you something. It's very hard to get fat eating protein and vegetables, right? Like, you'll never see someone who's obese going to their doctor and say, "Oh, doctor, I'm so obese." And they say, "You know what? You lay off the vegetables, man. You're eating too many vegetables. That's why you're 300 pounds." No. Or lay off, the boneless, skinless chicken breasts and the egg whites. That's why you're overweight. No. If you're eating protein and vegetables, and you're like, first off, like, what is your calorie target? Right? Like, that's another thing we got to address here, because a lot of times people set their calorie targets ridiculously too low. And my philosophy when it comes to fat loss is I want to diet on as high of a calorie intake as possible while still making progress. And there's a term here, it's known as G-flux. And it's basically when you consume food, like, the more you eat, the more you burn. The less you eat, the less you burn. Like, we're not like a combustion engine where we burn a set number of calories based on the size of the engine, right? Our metabolism is fluctuating up and down all the time, right? It's never static. There's a lot of variables that come into place, from food intake to activity levels to hormone levels, stress levels. It all comes into play. But you can actually eat more and burn more and build muscle and burn fat and actually get better results, versus trying to starve yourself and eat less and try to starve the fat. Because what happens when you eat a ridiculously low amount, like, let's just say you're trying to eat 1,000 calories a day, which is ridiculously low. That's starvation diets. Nobody should be eating 1,000 calories a day unless you're a child or something, right? You should be eating a lot of food, right? You should be eating a lot of high quality food to kind of fuel your body, feed the muscle, and then burn the fat through more activity and better quality training. But again, let's just say you're trying to follow some crazy restrictive low calorie diet. That's going to first off trigger those hunger signals that you're experiencing right now. I can't stop being hungry. I'm starving all the time. So, like, you're relying on grit and willpower to just restrict yourself. How long is that going to last, right? Might last a week, might last 2 weeks, might last a few weeks. If you're really tough, you might suffer it out for a month or two, or however long. But eventually, everyone's going to have their threshold of how much suffering they can take before they finally say, screw it, I can't take it anymore. I'm going to give in. And then where's the pizza place? Where's the ice cream shop? Where's the bakery? Right? Where's the bag of Doritos? Right? Where's the tub of ice cream? Where's, I got my elbow deep in the Pringles can. Everybody's going to have that point, that breaking point where I just can't stand feeling hungry anymore, and you give in. When you give in, then you're going to rebound and gain all the weight back again. And then you're going to feel guilty. You're going to feel like a failure. You're going to like, oh, I knew I couldn't do this. I screwed up again. And you're going to start beating yourself up. And guess what happens when you beat yourself up? You go and you eat some more because now you want some comfort food to feel good in the moment. And it just starts this vicious cycle. And this is where the whole yo-yo diet comes in. You can't starve yourself in shape. It'll never work. You have to eat yourself into shape. You have to feed your body and nourish it on the cellular level. And once you start eating more protein, eating more vegetables, eating more real food that's going to nourish you on the cellular level, that's going to increase your metabolism. It's going to increase your energy. It's going to increase your activity. And you're going to be able to train harder. You're going to be able to burn more. Because another thing, when you go on these ridiculously low-calorie diets and you start to slow your metabolism down, you subconsciously start moving less as well. Because now your body is trying to conserve energy. It goes into that survival mode. And you don't want to be doing much. So, like, for example, if you're eating as much as you want, like especially high protein, high nutrient dense food that's going to nourish you on the cellular level, you're going to have a lot more energy. You're going to be outgoing. You're going to want to do more, right? You're going to be the non-exercise activity thermogenesis. And that's the moving stuff like I'm doing right here. If I was on a very low calorie diet, I'd probably be like slumped down and like, oh, I don't want to do much. And I'm subconsciously conserving energy and I'm moving less, and I just want to sit on the couch and I just want to rest because I'm just so tired. But when I'm eating more, I want to move more because I got more energy. I got energy to burn. And that'll happen subconsciously. Like you'll see it. If you're on a low calorie diet, your natural energy and activity is going to start to go down. But when you're eating more and you're fueling your body, it's going to go up. So instead of trying to starve yourself lean, I want you to eat yourself lean. But eat the right foods and then allow that extra energy and nutrients that you have to fuel your workout so that you can train harder, right? Feed the muscle and burn the fat, right? It's that kind of strategy you want to lose instead of trying to starve the fat and starve the muscle and just starve everything. Starving yourself never works. It's just a recipe for disaster. Like how many people can starve themselves lean? People can't. Unless you're taking some crazy, ridiculous medication. I actually did a video talking about that the other day as well, right? These weight loss drugs, the semaglutides and the Ozempics and the Wegovy's and the Mounjaros and all this stuff that just shuts down your appetite in your body and forces you to eat low calories. That works. But the problem with that, when you eat ridiculously low calories, is not only are you losing fat, you're losing muscle and you're losing strength and you're losing energy, right? So you don't want to starve yourself lean. You want to eat yourself lean. And that's what we focus on within our whole coaching program is teaching people how to eat more and burn more. And it's crazy how that works. Like I know one of my coaching students, Mike Brown, I share his results a lot because he's a prime example of this put into practice. He went from on a crazy intermittent fasting ketogenic diet, which did help him initially. Don't get me wrong. It did help him initially. But once we started implementing more frequent meals, more protein, more carbs, more calories, and more training, he was able to fill out his frame with muscle and simultaneously burn fat. And then when we started tweaking and manipulating it, I know after about a year into his program, he wanted to focus on building even more muscle, right? Because he said, okay, I want to optimize my gains. So I said, yeah, let's do it. So we added in an extra meal, increased his protein intake even more. And lo and behold, we added in an extra meal. So he went from 4 meals to 5 meals a day. And he actually lost 5 pounds in the first month. And he's like, what the hell is happening? Like, I'm eating an extra meal. I'm eating way more food than ever, but I'm losing weight. And he was getting bigger and leaner. Like his muscle definition was getting better. And it's just like, you just sped up your metabolism. So now you're burning more and you're eating more. And it's just crazy to see. And I'll just share it because it's downright impressive to see the progress that Mike has made, and I just want to share that, kind of put this in perspective here. Actually, I for those of you who are still here watching, I dig up on my computer. I've got a full transformation of Mike's progress. I'm sure he won't mind me sharing it. I've shared it before. Where is it to? There it is. Oh, shit. I had it there on my computer. Just a second. It's right here. Okay. I'm just going to share my screen for you to kind of really drive this point home, because seeing is believing. As they say, you know, pictures are worth 1,000 words. I can talk all I like, and you're going to say, yeah, bullshit. That doesn't make sense. But if I actually show you what I'm talking about, it's going to make sense. So right here, hopefully that's coming through. You can see that. This was Mike's journey. So right here, he started working out in 2020, 56 years old. He went on an intermittent fasting diet. So that was the first year. He lost a lot of weight. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it did help him lose a lot of weight, but he lost a lot of muscle in the process as well. So he wasn't happy with his physique after a year of intermittent fasting, ketogenic dieting. Then we started, let's put some, you know, more protein, more carbohydrates, more frequent meals. From 21 to 22, with the change, we had him eating 4 meals a day with protein and carbs and focusing more on weight training. So you can see the difference, you know, in those two middle pictures. He started to fill out his frame with lean muscle and get bigger and stronger. In the third picture, in the red shorts, this is where we actually added in an extra meal. So we went from 4 meals to 5 meals, more protein, more carbs, more calories, and also higher intensity training. And he actually got even leaner and filled out his frame with more muscle. So this whole idea of trying to starve yourself, it's a losing battle. I mean, the 2021 picture, that's starving himself. That's the physique he built from starving himself. The 2023 picture, that's the results he got from feeding himself. I mean, what would you rather have if you're looking at this? Like, would you rather look like he does in 2021 or what he does in 2023? And he's even better than that now. I mean, we've got some more updated progress pictures that I can share here as well in the future. But I mean, Mike is actually getting ready now to do a master's bodybuilding competition, which is really cool. So he's in the process of training for that. But he got in the best shape of his life by eating more and training more, not by starving himself and trying to deprive. So for those of you who are like, oh, I'm trying to keep my calories low and I'm afraid to eat too much protein because I'm going to go over my calories. Or I'm afraid to eat too many vegetables because I'm going to go over my... Nobody got fat because they ate too much protein and veggies. You got fat because you ate too many burgers and fries and ice cream and pizza and shit like that. Drinking too much booze, right? That's another one for sure. Nobody got fat because they ate too much protein and veg. It did not happen. And if somebody says they got fat because they ate too much protein and vegetables, it's probably not the protein and vegetables. It's what they put with the protein and the vegetables, right? If you sauce and gravy, okay, yeah, that could make you fat. But you didn't get fat from the actual protein and the actual vegetables. It's probably the shit that you put on the protein and the vegetables. All right. Anyway, guys, I'm going to clue this up. This has been a longer chat than normal, which doesn't surprise me. All right, where are we to here? All right. Again, thanks for joining in. Thanks for everybody who submitted questions. It's much appreciated. And again, thanks for the support. You know, for those of you who did help support the channel, every bit goes a long way. So again, I enjoy doing these video chats, and I'll be back again next Friday, same time, same place. We'll be going live at 5. And for those of you who, if you have any questions, you know, or if there's anything that you would like to discuss in more detail, feel free to reach out to me. My contact information is down in the description below. Feel free to reach out and we can have a chat if you have any other questions you want to follow up with, or if you're interested in coming on board with our VIP Muscle After 40 coaching program, we can discuss that as well. All right, guys, I'm going to clue it up. Have yourself a fantastic weekend, and I look forward to talking to you next week. Take care. Over and out in the video stream.